what is it that you would attribute? What made you such a world-class player to win the PGA, to compete, almost win 2 U.S. Opens? Grant Spaeth said about you, he said you were simply put a winner and a fighter. But I wonder what it is that you would say about your own self and your own game.
Well, I would say I was blessed, as I said before, I was blessed with great hand-eye coordination. I was as good around the greens in those days as anybody. I could putt, and I could chip, and I could pitch, and everything like that, and I became a decent driver. When I took the assistant job at Edgewater, as an amateur, I used to hook everything, and I could hit it a long ways. But I had watched Hogan play, and I was very enamored with his idea of wanting everything to go from left to right. And that's really all I practiced at Edgewater. We didn't have any range, but a lot of the kids who were Evans scholars were caddying there, and I'd get them to shag for me at night, and I'd hit a couple hundred drives every night. And I became a good driver of the ball. It wasn't tremendously long, but I was long enough. I was never a great iron player, but I could drive the ball in the fairway, and I think that's what made it possible for me to play so well in the Open, that I could keep the ball in play, and I was good around the greens. But I don't know. I guess I was a natural player because I never fooled around with my swing. I never worked on it very hard. It certainly wasn't practice that made me a great player, because I didn't practice much. I really didn't. I didn't much care for it. And, you know, again, you go back to when we played on the tour. If we wanted to practice, we'd have to wait till everybody was off the golf course, and we'd hit balls out in, and caddies would pick them up at our own balls. There were no ranges in those days. Maybe 2 or 3 courses had ranges. So you couldn't go out and beat balls all the time, because I always thought I didn't want to get my caddy killed, go out in the field, a bunch of guys are hitting balls, and you know, we had a lot of caddies hit out there, and it was dangerous. But I hated to practice, I really did. So that wasn't the reason I became a pretty good player. I had desire to become a good player, but I didn't work at it as hard as I possibly should have. Whether I would have gotten any better, whether I'd have gone to that top level, if I had practiced more, I don't know. But I was competitive. I really was. I loved to compete. And
did you play much overseas? Did you play much in Britain? Any of the links courses? And
well, I never played in the British Open, because in those days it was very expensive to go. It took 3 weeks out of your schedule to go over. You'd have to go over a week early to qualify, and then you know, the airplanes didn't go very fast in those days. In fact, there weren't any at the start. But so I never went to the British Open. Later in my career, I played in Britain, and I played in France, and I played in Japan, South America. Played a lot in Central America, on a so-called Caribbean tour. But no, I didn't play as much as I would have liked to overseas. I did play a lot. I got to play a lot of the great links courses over there, and I think that when I look back on it, that I might have made a mistake not trying to go over there, because I think my game would have suited that type of golf.
It sounds like it.
I hit it low. I could make it roll. And I could do things around the greens. I didn't have to take a wedge all the time. I could play pitch and runs and everything like that. So I think I could have been fairly successful at most of the links courses over there, but I'll never know.
you played. You had a very good career. You won some important tournaments. Finished high in others. And then, what about the transition into the broadcasting? Because I can remember hearing your voice countless times. It's a real honor to talk with you today across the table.
As I said, it's everything's sort of timing. It. I wasn't playing very well in the late '60s, and I got a call from these people in St. Louis. Saying that they had a club job open, and they wondered if I'd be interested. That they had heard that I was kind of finished playing and everything like that. So I ended up going back and I took the job in St. Louis. And I was there for a couple of years, and again, I got to play quite a bit. And I almost won the Open, the one in '69. I lost by a shot to Orville Moody when I was the pro at Westwood in St. Louis. And I won the Club Pro Championship. So after my contract was up, after 2 years, I said, well, I'm going to give the tour one more shot. And I came back out. I played in 70, 71, 72, and had the best year I ever had in 72. I won the Bob Hope down here. I hadn't won a tournament in 11 years. And you never expect something like that to happen. But I played through 73 and a little in 74, and I could kind of see it going. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I was thinking of taking a club job again because I'd been there before, and I think I could have gotten a pretty good job. But in the fall of '74, a very good friend of mine who played the tour, Steve Reed, was working for Dean Beeman, who was the commissioner at the time, and he was working as his liaison between television and the tour. And he came to me. He said, "Bob," he said, "ABC's looking for somebody." He said they got the idea of putting a guy down on the ground and having him walk through the last few groups. He said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure, Steve, I would be." He said, "Well, they want to talk to you in New York." So I went back to New York, and I got the job. And I started January 1975, and I was with ABC for 31 years. And had a great time, great life. It was wonderful. I got to see all the great players. I got to go to all the great places, and it was first class. The way that ABC treated you in those days, things have changed a little in the television business now. But I work with some wonderful people. I work with Schenkel. I work with Jim McKay. I work with Jack Whitaker, and Byron Nelson was there, and of course the best friend I ever had, I guess, in golf, Dave Marr. I worked with him for a long time, and was fortunate that I got to see. Of course, I got to play with Hogan, Snead, and Nelson, those guys. But after I was doing it, and I got to play with Nicklaus and Palmer. Of course, I was pretty close to Arnold for a long time. We traveled together, everything. But then I got to see, during the TV, I got to see Watson, Trevino, and Raymond Floyd, and all those guys. And then I was still around when Tiger came up, and his group. So I got to see everybody that really, because I never did get to see Bobby Jones play, but aside from that, I've seen almost everybody play. And I've seen some tremendous things happen. Nicklaus hang on as long as he did and become a force, at his age. I mean, things were great. I really enjoyed that work.
There was a time when you started, when the purses weren't very big.
Oh,
And, a decision of whether to work for a clothing store or sell cars or something or go out on the tour was a real, it was kind of a difficult choice.
well, it really was.
Because even if you went out there, you're not going to...
Not going to make a lot of money. The biggest tournament we had in my first year, I think maybe it was $20,000 total purse. Most of them were $10,000 tournaments. And, you look at the disparity in the money, and they can say, well, yeah, you could buy a car for $1,000 then, but it still doesn't even compare to what they're playing for now.
And it isn't just the purse at the top. I mean, a guy who's finishing 80th or 90th on the money list is making a lot of money.
Well, it took this year to finish in the top 25. It took $650,000 in purse money, and you relate that back to what Ben Hogan, probably as good a player as there was in the world, he won $202,000 in his whole career. So you can't even compare. Money is something that you just throw out the window.